Welcome back for chapter 9 of Momo. Hope you guys are doing okay wherever you are and enjoying some of the spring that's happening around us all. So, the only important thing for me to do before I start is ask, are you sitting comfortably? So who is that?
Is there anyone out there? Yes, I am. I'm sitting so comfortably here in the outer reaches.
I'm glad some of you are sitting comfortably. And for those that are not sitting comfortably, I hope you'll get more comfortable from listening to this.
Hooray!
I'm really enjoying it. We're reaching a bit of a scary point at the moment.
Oh no!
So make sure if you're a child out there that you hold your parents' hand so that they don't get too scared, because parents can get pretty scared by this sort of stuff.
Oh, whose hand shall I hold?
And if you haven't got a hand to hold, don't worry. I'm here and we're all here together.
Hooray, thank you.
The great moment had come and gone. It was over, and not a single grown-up had appeared. The children's demonstration had passed almost unnoticed by the very people it was aimed at. All their efforts had been in vain. The big red sun was already sinking into the sea of purple cloud, so low in the sky that its rays lit only the topmost tier of steps on the amphitheatre, where so many hundreds of children had been waiting for so long. No cheerful hum of voices broke, and the sad and disconsolate silence. The shadows were lengthening fast. It would soon be dark, and the children began to shiver in the chill evening air. Somewhere in the distance, a church clock struck 8. Bong, bong, bong. Doubt gave way to certainty. The whole scheme had been a complete fiasco. Eventually, Paolo came over to Momo and said, "It's no use waiting any longer. No one will turn up now. Good night." He walked off too. Franco was the next to leave. "It's hopeless," he said. "We can't count on the grown-ups. We know that now. I never did trust them anyway. As far as I'm concerned, they can stew in their own juice from now on." More and more children left. It was dark by the time the last of them gave up and went home, leaving Momo and Guido and Beppo alone. The old road sweeper stood up. "Are you going too?" Momo asked. "I've got to," Beppo told her with a sigh. "I'm on night duty." "Night duty?" "Yes, uploading garbage at the municipal dump. I'm due there in half an hour." "But it's Sunday. Besides, you've never had to do that before." "No, but we've been told to report there. They say it's only temporary. There's too much garbage to handle, apparently. Shortages of staff and so on." "That's a shame," said Momo. "I'd have liked you to stay a while." "Yes, I don't want to go myself, but there it is. I've got to." And Beppo mounted his squeaky old bicycle and pedalled off into the darkness. Guido was whistling a soft and melancholy tune. He could whistle very sweetly, and Momo was listening with pleasure when he broke off suddenly. "Heavens!" he exclaimed. "I must go too. Today's when I start my new job. Night watchman. Didn't I tell you I'd forgotten the time?" Momo just stared at him and said nothing. "So our plan didn't work out," he went on. "Never mind, Momo. It didn't work out the way I hoped, either, but it was fun all the same. Tremendous fun." When Momo still said nothing, he stroked her hair soothingly and added, "Don't take it so hard, Momo. Everything will look quite different in the morning. We'll just have to come up with a new idea and a new game, huh?" It wasn't a game, Momo said in a muffled voice. Guido stood up. Look, I know how you feel, but we'll talk about it tomorrow, okay? I have to go now. I'm late enough as it is. Anyway, it's time you went to bed. And he walked off, whistling his melancholy tune. So Momo remained sitting forlornly in the great stone bowl of the amphitheatre. Clouds had veiled the sky and blotted out the stars. A peculiar breeze had sprung up, light but persistent, and singularly cold. If breezes can be said to have a colour, this one was grey. Far away beyond the outskirts of the city loomed the massive municipal garbage dump. It was a veritable mountain of ash, cinders, broken glass and china, tin cans, plastic containers, old mattresses, cardboard cartons, and countless other objects discarded by the city's inhabitants, all waiting to be fed bit by bit into a huge incinerator. Beppo and his workmates toiled for hours, shoveling garbage out of long lines of trucks. The trucks crept forward, headlights blazing, but the more they emptied, the longer the line became. Ooh, sounds scary. Better put the hat on. The longer the line became. Faster! The foreman kept shouting. Hurry it up, or we'll never get through it. They didn't finish the job till midnight, and by that time Beppo's shirt was clinging to his back. Being older than the rest and not the most robust of men, he flopped down wearily on the upturned plastic bucket and struggled to get his breath back. Hey, Beppo, one of his workmates called. We're off home now. You coming? In a minute, wheezed Beppo. He clasped one hand on his aching chest. Feeling all right, old man? Called someone else. I'm fine, Beppo called back. Just taking a breather. That's all. Don't wait for me. Okay, the other said. Good night, and off they went. It was quiet when they'd gone, except for the occasional rustle and squeak from rats scrabbling in the garbage. Beppo pillowed his head on his folded arms and dozed off. He didn't know how long he'd been asleep when he was roused by a gust of cold air. One look was enough to jolt him awake in an instant. All over the huge mound of garbage stood grey figures, attired in smart grey suits and grey bowler hats, steel grey briefcases in their hands and small grey cigars in their mouths. They were gazing fixedly, silent, at the summit of the mound. There, ensconced on a sort of magistrate's bench, sat 3 men, identical to the others in every way. Beppo was frightened for a moment. He had no business to be there, he sensed that instinctively, and the prospect of discovery scared him. Very soon, however, he realized that the army of grey figures had eyes for no one but the 3 man tribunal. Either they had failed to notice him at all, or they had mistaken him for some discarded object. Whatever the explanation, he resolved to keep as still as a mouse. Then the silence was broken by a voice from the judge's bench. The Supreme Court is now in session, announced the central figure. Call agent BLW553C. The cry was repeated further down the slope and repeated again some distance away, like an echo. Treading his way slowly through the crowd and up the mound of garbage came a man in grey. distinguishable from his fellows only by the pallor of his face, which was almost white. At last he reached the tribunal. "You are agent number BLW553C?" asked the man in the centre. "I am." "How long have you been employed by the time-saving bank?" "Ever since I came into existence, Your Honour." "That goes without saying. Kindly spare us such irrelevancies. When did you come into existence?" 11 years, 3 months, 6 days, 8 hours, 32 minutes, and at this precise moment, 18 seconds ago. Oddly enough, although this exchange was being conducted a long way off and in low, monotonous voices, Beppo didn't miss a word of it. "Are you aware," the man in the centre went on, "that a substantial number of children paraded through the streets today with placards and banners, that they even entertained the outrageous notion of inviting the whole city to attend a briefing on our activities?" "It hadn't escaped me," replied the agent. "How do you account for the fact that these children knew about us and our activities?" the senior inquisitor pursued remorselessly. "It's a mystery to me, Your Honour," said the agent. "If I may venture a personal observation, however, I would urge the Supreme Court not to take this incident more seriously than it deserves. It was a piece of childish nonsense, that's all. I would also urge the court to bear in mind that we easily managed to scotch the scheduled meeting by leaving people no time to attend it. Even had we failed to do so, however, I am confident that everyone would have dismissed the children's information as a cock and bull story. In my opinion, we would have done better to let the meeting go ahead, because that would—" "Defendant," the judge broke off sharply, "do you realize where you are?" The agent wilted. "Yes," he whispered. "This is no human court," the judge continued. "You are being tried by your own kind. Lying to us is futile. You know that perfectly well. So why bother to try?" It's an occupational hazard." Uh, the agent stammered. "It is for this court to decide how seriously to take the children's intentions. However, I need hardly remind you that children present a greater threat to our work than anyone else." "I know," the agent conceded meekly. "Children," declared the judge, "are our natural enemies. But for them, mankind would have been completely in our power long ago. Adults are far easier to turn into time savers. That's why one of our most sacred commandments states, 'Leave the children till last.' Are you familiar with that commandment, defendant?" "Yes, indeed, Your Honour," said the agent, puffing hard at his cigar. It was a peculiar fact that despite the solemnity of the occasion, all present, judges, defendants, and spectators, were smoking incessantly. And yet the judge retorted, "We have uncontrovertible proof that one of us, I repeat, one of us, not only got into conversation with a child, but betrayed us. Do you happen to know who that certain person was?" Agent BLW 553C wilted still more. It was me, Your Honor. And why did you break our most sacred commandment? Because the child in question has been seriously impeding the time-saving bank at heart. My intentions were of the best. Your intentions don't concern us, the judge said icily. Results are all that count here, and the result of your unauthorized actions has been to gain us no time and acquaint a child with some of the most vital secrets. Do you admit that? The agent hung his head. I do, he whispered. So you plead guilty? Yes, Your Honor. But I would draw the court's attention to an extenuating circumstances. I was genuinely bewitched, lured into betraying us by the way the child listened to me. I can't explain how it happened, but I swear that's the way it was. Your excuses are irrelevant and immaterial. This court takes no account of extenuating circumstances. The law is quite categorical on this point and allows no exceptions. However, we shall certainly devote some attention to this unusual child. What is its name? Momo, Your Honor. Male or female? She is a girl. Place of residence? The ruined amphitheatre. Very well, said the judge, who had recorded all these details in his note. You may rest assured, defendant, that the child will never harm us again. We shall neutralize her by every available means. Let that thought console you now that sentence is about to be passed and carried out. The agent began to tremble. What is the sentence? He whispered. The three judges put their heads together and conferred in undertones. They then nodded, and their spokesman turned to face the prisoner again. Agent BLW553C, having pleaded guilty to a charge of high treason, this court unanimously sentences him to pay the penalty prescribed by law. He is to be deprived of all time forthwith. Mercy, mercy, shrieked the agent, but his steel grey briefcase and small cigar had already been snatched away by two grey figures standing beside him. And then a very strange thing happened. No sooner had the condemned man lost his cigar than he started to become more and more transparent. His screams grew fainter, too, as he stood there with his head in his hands, dissolving into thin air. The last that could be seen of him was a little flurry of ash eddying into the breeze, but that soon vanished too. Silently the men in grey dispersed, the judges and spectators alike. Once the darkness had swallowed them up, the sole reminder of their presence was a chill, grey wind that swirled around the dismal and deserted garbage dump. Beppo continued to sit spellbound on his upturned bucket, staring at the spot where the condemned man had been standing. He felt as if his limbs had turned to ice and were only just beginning to thaw. The men in grey existed. He had seen them for himself. At about the same time, the distant church clock had already struck 12. Momo was still sitting on the steps of the amphitheatre. She was waiting. For what, she didn't know, but some instinct had dissuaded her from going to bed. All of a sudden, something lightly brushed against her bare foot. Peering hard, for it was very dark, she saw a small tortoise looking up at her. Its mouth seemed to curve in a mysterious smile, and there was such a friendly light in its shrewd black eyes that Momo felt it was about to speak. She bent down and tickled it under the chin. "Who might you be?" she said softly. "Nice of you to come and keep me company, tortoise, even if no one else will. What can I do for you?" Momo wasn't sure whether she'd failed to notice them before or whether they'd only just appeared, but she suddenly spotted some letters on the tortoise's back. They were faintly luminous and seemed to follow the natural patterns of its shell. "Follow me," she slowly deciphered. Astonished, she sat up with a jerk. "Do you mean me?" she asked. But the tortoise had already set off. After a few steps, it paused and looked back. "It really does mean me," Momo said to herself. She got up and went over to the creature. "Keep going," she told it softly. "I'm right behind you." And step by step she followed the tortoise as it slowly, very slowly, led her out of the amphitheatre and headed for the city. That's the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, although it was scary. And join me for the next chapter, chapter 10. Tomorrow I'll be reading it, and I'll keep on uploading the chapters onto this playlist, the Momo playlist, until I've read it all. So I hope you're enjoying it, and wherever you are, that you're doing okay. Loads of love to you guys. Take care.
Thank you. And much love to everyone else.